I would like to know, how did he know the victim was leaving his room at that
Yes.
time?
Yes.
Hello.
Very important.
Apparently his itinerary, and this was, I can't say this from personally seeing it, but someone reported in the chat that it was mentioned on their website that this convention or whatever it was for United Healthcare was being held at this location and at this time. So with a little bit of research and then follow up, and maybe he had a mole inside. As we said, it seemed like he had some help here. Maybe he has someone inside the company that was feeding him the information as to the whereabouts and the schedule of the CEO, Brian Thompson. The other thing is that everyone is raising their hand, putting their hands on their head. Why did a man making $10 million or $11 million a year, worth $50 million, is the CEO of a company that's receiving all kinds of threats? Why did he not have a security detail? Everyone's shaking their head. You can bet everyone in these industries that are CEOs are calling every single security company trying to get bodyguards for the holiday season now, because they're all quite afraid based on what happened here. Professor Mike.
Yeah, Bill, if you're in the security business in 2025, you're going to do really well. And that this case is going to spur a lot of business. But yeah, it's 6:45 in the morning. He's up. He's going from one hotel across the street to the other hotel where he's going to be meeting a whole group of people. He had a small group. He's going to go across the street, go to another group. The number of people that could possibly know that movement is really limited, and so, if you're talking about someone, a shareholder finding out, that stockholder finding out that there's going to be a meeting of stock, people in this hotel in this particular date and time, it's going to tell you it's going to have the meeting. You're not going to know the individual movements of all of the other officers on the board of directors or the CEO. Someone was feeding him information in real time. If he was there only about maybe like 30 or 40 minutes before Mr. Thompson went from that one building across the street to the other building, someone was feeding him information in real time. That wasn't just luck, serendipitously that he got there. No, somebody was giving him information in real time. And that's my $1 million question is, who is giving him that information?
Well, I think some of the proof in the pudding is that you could see him walking on the street, talking to someone on the phone.
Yeah.
That was pre-shooting. That was preparation. That was someone else involved in this with him. Because who would you be calling home to mom at that point? No. I think that.
Could it be someone saying he'll be leaving the hotel across the street in the next 10 minutes? We don't know.
Yes.
I mean, there's so many variables there. It just seems like he had this sensitive information. Now, it was posted on their website that there was going to be this conference. Yes. What time was the conference going to start? It wasn't going to start at 7 o'clock in the morning or a little, whatever the time was that he was across the street, 6:44. I think it was going to start a little later, but he knew that he was coming from another location. That's why he waited outside. He wasn't within the New York Hilton where the conference was going to be held. He knew he was coming from somewhere else. How did he know that? Very, very important.
Absolutely. From the chat, Be Real, they said the gun was the kind used to put animals down. Yeah, that's absolutely correct. So an unusual type of gun chosen because it didn't make a lot of noise when he fired it, but it presented several other problems in that he had to eject the rounds manually. The gun did not, as reported early on in this investigation, the gun didn't get jammed. He just had to clear it by manually ejecting the shells as he fired it. So most people would be very nervous about having to do that. He seemed to be calm and collective as he was doing that. So, yeah, you may question, was this his first rodeo? Was this his first time doing something like this? Someone in the chat, I can't find them right now, said this was not his first shooting. You very well could be right.
I had colleagues say the same thing to me. Did he start out becoming a killer in one day, or was this something that he built up to? And I guess that question begs to be asked because we know from history, people usually graduate to these type of things. They start out at one position and they move up to this. And it's maybe quite possible that he did have a propensity towards violence previously.
Absolutely. Reason 1024. DNA only works if it's already in a system. Reason 1024, that's not totally true, but it's half true. And I'll explain. He's not in the CODIS system because they have a good DNA sample. CODIS stands for Combined DNA Index System. It's run by the FBI. There's two categories of DNA in CODIS, and one is offender DNA. That's anyone on a national level who's been arrested for a felony, convicted of a felony and certain misdemeanors. Their DNA is in the CODIS database. The second category of DNA in CODIS is forensic DNA. That's DNA that's unidentified. So, for example, if he remains unidentified here, his DNA will be in CODIS as forensic DNA. But there's another way, and this is relatively new. And it's something that we've seen if you followed the Gilgo Beach serial killer case, there's something called investigative genetic genealogy. And on the Koberger case in Idaho, the man charged with murdering 4 students, investigative genetic genealogy came into play. They can build a family tree, and I'm not going to get deeply into this now because it's very complicated. They can build a family tree. They already know where this guy is from, his ethnicity, his background, his height, his weight, from the DNA. They can determine many of those things. If they need to, they can build a family tree and find out who this is. But as we're being told, unconfirmed, they may have a name on him already, and that may not be necessary. But you can bet your bottom dollar the FBI has already started an investigative genetic genealogy tree. Mike.
Yeah, Billy, because the great thing about investigative genetic genealogy is that even they got his DNA, they put in the system. Okay, his exact DNA has never been put in the system before. So as you say, it's just DNA from the crime scene. But if any member of his family, including distant cousins, has ever, donated DNA to a genealogy site to find out their family history, where their ancestors were from, that would match, and they would be able to determine, how far a distant person that is, and they'd get a name. So then you'd go, and talk to those people. That would take probably months to get, depending on, I'm sure, the pressure. But this has been done in cases